with battered boots and shallow roots. Nothing held me still. Just scattered pursuits of myself. Without you, is what I want, still part of your will. I lean into my wants and wishes. I lean into my thoughts and wildest dreams, holding on to all my heart's desires in this reckless pursuit of thee. In every single line like cast in shadows, see these words I often think, holding my breath till my heart inspires. Is this the place I long to be? In this reckless pursuit of you.
Reach me
washes over every doubt, every imperfection. Jesus, your presence is the comfort of my soul. There's nowhere I'd rather be when you're singing over me. I just wanna be here with you. I'm lost in your mystery. I'm found in your love for me. I just wanna be here with you. Here in the waiting, I won't worry about tomorrow. No need to focus on the things I can't control.
Suncoast, it's great to be here with you all this morning. It is our honor to get to sing these songs and really reflect on this time. And one of my favorite things to do is pull some songs out of like our nostalgic era. And one of those songs that we just recently pulled out is called "The Church." And I was listening to it. And I listened to the words and I saw the words. I'm just like, man, this song is perfect for Suncoast. And we recently did it at a encore, and we really wanted to do it in a main service, and this service was the perfect one to do it in. And if you haven't heard this song, there's a lot of preconceived notions when you hear the word church. A lot of random words kind of come to mind. But one of Suncoast's goals is to redefine what people think about Christianity and what they think about the church. And our goal is to get back to what Jesus called us to do. And this song is that call to action. Some of my favorite lines are, "Now is the time for us to rise, to carry hope and let love shine, and show this world that mercy is alive." And I don't know about you, but that right there, that's the heart of Jesus. And that is what Suncoast strives to be every single day. And a lot of the songs that we sing, they're great. They talk about the greatness of God, the vastness of God. But there's not a lot of songs that we sing that fire us up and call us to action. Because love is not something that you just sit in, you show it. It's an action. It's something that you do, and it's a way that you live every single day. And some days, I don't feel like it. I know you don't either. And sometimes the most loving thing we can do is not be mean. Just put a smile on our face. But if you can show God's love and you have the energy and the ability, do it every single day, every single moment that you get a chance. And that's something as simple as just being kind to somebody when you're walking by them in a store, smiling at them, or being there for a friend in need when they really need someone, showing up and being the love of Christ to every single person. So this song, "The Church," is our call to action. And if you know it, sing it out. If you don't, I hope you learn it quick. It's a good one. Let's do it. We are the change the world is waiting for. We've got a love this world is desperate for. We will lead and take to your street. so much for singing with us. You may be seated.
How is that true in becoming more Christ-like? That to become more Christ-like, I may need to do things that I least want to do in that journey. Like,
Well, let me do a couple of analogies.
Yeah.
If you want to become a musician and play the guitar, play the keyboard like some of our tremendous band,
yeah,
I mean, if you want to do that, you're going to have to learn to rehearse. You're not just going to get up there and play and it's going to be fine. Every person on that stage who does a spectacular job, they know what their job is, and they practice, rehearse the music before they get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of my kids all having about 12 years of piano through high school, and then Laura 4 more years, and Stacy a couple more years, and Ryan playing everything. But how do you get there? So I want to become a great musician. Where you're going to have to do what you don't want to do.
Yep.
What's that? Practice. Guess what? I want to be well read. Well, you're going to have to read.
That's right.
I want to be a real spiritual guy. Well, how's that? What are you doing about that?
That's right.
And I think for me, the times in my life where I've grown the most spiritually are the times that I'm most reflective. Good morning. Let me wake you up again. Good morning. It's good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Just a little reminder at the end of the service, once a month we do communion. For those of you who want that communion, you can meet down here at the end of the service and partake in that. It's been a lot of fun in this series called Becoming More. This is the last of 6 teachings, and we'll launch a new series next week called, Troy? Fear Less. So 4 weeks on Fear Less, and Troy's going to be leading that for us, but it's going to be a great week. But let me do a little talk about becoming more. When you and I grow through life experience, something changes in us. We grow. We call that formation. Formation involves patience. Are you done yet? Me neither. So it also is called perseverance. Formation is trust. God will help us as we go through that experience as well. All along the way, as He helps us, we're called to help others too, because I think that's God's plan. God's plan is to use human beings to challenge us to be more. And as we become more, we're to help our neighbors and our community and those around us become more. And that's His plan. I think it'd be a lot easier for me if God would just say, look, I'll straighten everybody out without you having to say a word, Larry. I go, that'd be a lot easier for me. But, I'd be out of job. And I was back there just a few minutes ago about to come in, and the guy said, well, you better hurry. They're on the last song. I said, yeah, you only work 30 minutes a week. You shouldn't be late. So that's kind of a joke and the abuse I get from my best friends. But in the last 6 weeks, we've been examining the formation of Moses, how his life was threatened as a baby, but his family hid him in a waterproof basket in the high grass along the Nile River. 2016, Becky and I, we did a sailboat ride on the Nile. We were in a cruise on the Nile for about a week. But all along, you see this tall grass. The best analogy I have, you've been to the Everglades, you've seen the Everglades grass, how marshy that is. That's the way it was along the sides of the Nile River. So Moses' family hid him in a basket in the bulrushes. Moses grew up, though, in 2 worlds. The first world, he was Hebrew, and he knew it. They didn't hide it from him. The second world, he was raised by Pharaoh's daughter as his son. So here's a guy educated in Egyptian system, living in an Egyptian house, but having a Hebrew background. So he really was a great blend of 2 worlds. And because of his sense of loyalty to his first world, his Hebrew world, when he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, he couldn't take it anymore, and he killed the Egyptian, hid the body, and then he took off and fled. He fled to the desert. He met some nomads, so they call them Bedouin, nomadic people, and he became part of their family. He was now a shepherd. Grew up in Pharaoh's house, highly educated, knew as a Hebrew. Now I'm in no man's land. What am I doing? I'm taking care of sheep. Little did he know that was in preparation for the bigger job of shepherding had to come pretty soon. So that's Moses. He encounters a burning bush. He hears the voice of God. The voice says, take your shoes off, you're on holy ground. Then the voice says, Moses, I've heard my people crying out to me in anguish. Where are you, God? Recently, I heard the Nemo songs, and one of the songs that stuck in my mind is, "Where's My Dad?" And if you know that song, you're going to hear it a little bit later, but where's my dad? I think that's what they were saying. Where's our Heavenly Father? Where's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the one who claimed to be our deliverer? We cry out and we wanted you to deliver us, and God said, I got a plan, and Moses is part of that plan. But when God comes and confronts Moses, Moses is full of excuses. Even though he's at the burning bush having a God encounter, even though his life is going to be forever changed, he still needs a little nudging, kind of like some others I know. Yeah, look in the mirror, either that or look up front. You'll see someone who needs some nudging from time to time. Let me tell you a true story. In 1964, Neil Davis, a cameraman, tells this true story. It was during the Borneo confrontation between Malaysia and Indonesia. A group of natives from Nepal called Gurkhas were asked if they would be willing to jump from a British transport plane into combat against the Indonesians if the need arose. The Gurkhans were easygoing people, but they were willing to help wherever they saw the conflict and ready to be involved. They had a right to turn down the request because they'd never been trained as paratroopers. But because they're Gurkhas, they, on this occasion, they said, no, we need to think about it. But right now, the answer is no. The next day, they asked the British people in charge if they could have some clarification. They said, we will jump from the plane under certain conditions. First of all, first condition, if they were guaranteed they would land in reasonably soft places, no rocky places, because they're inexperienced in falling. The response was, you're going to be dropped in the jungle, not a big rocky area. It is soft, no problem. The second request, we would ask that the plane fly as slowly as possible. The response was, no problem. We always fly as slow as possible when men jump. The third request was we will agree to jump if the plane is no more than 100 feet high. The response was, we can't guarantee that condition because it would not be in the Gurkha's best interest to jump at that height because it's not safe. The parachutes need more than 100 feet just to open. They wouldn't have time to open. And the Gurkha said, parachutes? Oh, you didn't say anything about jumping with parachutes. We're good to jump from any height as long as there's parachutes. Pretty willing to jump from 100 feet. So God called Moses, and what he really saying, Moses, I want you to jump in to your hometown. I want you to deliver this to your people, that they're going to be delivered from bondage and slavery. And even though Moses was amazed that God spoke to him from a bush on fire, Moses came up with excuses why this whole plan should be modified. He comes up with excuses and he really questions God's plan. So here's my question for us. Do we question those things that challenge us to become more? Ready? I'll answer it for you. Of course we do, because it requires change. So, you want us to change. For some people, change is not so hard. And for some people, change is very difficult. See, my wife and I are different. I don't mind changing things. She likes to keep things the same. That's why he put us together. Sometimes I'm a little less aggressive with her, and I help her be more aggressive and change when it comes to that. But there are excuses that you and I have to change. When it comes to changing you guys, here's what I want you to hear me. I want you all to change as long as I don't have to change. It's kind of like surgery. There's major surgery, minor surgery. Major surgery is when I have it. Minor surgery is when you have it. It's just a different perspective. It's so much easier to see other people changing than to turn the light on ourselves. That's just human nature. Moses comes up with excuses to God's plan. So, do we question those things? Of course we do. They're excuses that you and I use to avoid change. They're excuses you and I use that really restrict formation in our lives or transformation. So let's look at what the scripture says in Exodus chapter 4. Moses answered, what if they do not believe me or listen to me and say, the Lord did not appear to you? Then the Lord said to him, what's that in your hand? A staff, he replied. The Lord said, throw it on the ground. Moses threw it on the ground, and it became a snake, and he ran from it. Then the Lord said to him, reach out your hand and take it by the tail. So Moses reached out and took hold of the snake, and it turned back into a staff in his hands. This, said the Lord, is so that they might believe that the Lord, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, has appeared to you. Then the Lord said, put your hand inside your cloak. So Moses did put his hand inside his cloak, and when he took it out, the skin was leprous. It had become as white as snow. No, put it back in your cloak, he said. So Moses put his hand back into his cloak, and when he took it out, it was restored like the rest of his flesh. Then the Lord said, if they do not believe you or pay attention to the first sign, they may believe the second. But if they do not believe these two signs or listen to you, then take some water from the Nile and pour it on the dry ground. The water you take from the river will become blood on the ground. Moses said to the Lord, pay attention to this, pardon your servant, Lord. In other words, excuse me, I've never been eloquent, neither in the past nor since you've spoken to your servant. I'm slow of speech and tongue. The Lord said to him, who gave human beings their mouths? Who makes them deaf or mute? Who gives them sight or makes them blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak and will teach you what to say. But Moses said, pardon your servant again, Lord, or excuse me, Lord, please send someone else. Now, can you imagine after all this? Please send someone else. Then the Lord's anger burned against Moses. And he said, what about your brother Aaron, the Levite? I know he can speak well. He is already on his way to meet you, and he will be glad to see you. You shall speak to him and put words in his mouth. I will help both of you speak and will teach you what to do. He will speak to the people for you, and it will be as if he were your mouth and as if you were God to him. But take this staff in your hand so that you can perform the signs with it. Interesting in this passage, it seemed that no matter what happens to Moses, he's still not ready. He comes up with excuses because of his fear. Now here's what I'd do. If God were to say, well, Larry, you help counsel Moses, or help me counsel, give me some counsel about Moses. I would say to God, look, you stood before him in the burning bush, he heard the bush speak, cut him off. Why do you need him? You're God. You could use Aaron, you're going to already use Aaron. Why don't you just skip Moses, cut him out, and just use Aaron? He's going to be the spokesperson anyway. That's pretty logical, isn't it? I mean, and I can almost hear God whisper back to me, I see things that you don't see, Larry. And like what? Like character. Moses has the character I need. Aaron can speak well, but that doesn't mean he has the character. Moses won't cave in when he's challenged. Moses also will get an audience with the Pharaoh because he used to live there. And Aaron will never get that. But what are the insights that God has in your life and my life and in this story as we examine our need to become more? So I'm going to share 3 things with you. They're in your notes. You can fill in the blank if you want. Here's the first one. There are many excuses to keep us in the comfort zone. I mean, what Moses really was saying, God, I'm not convincing. I'm a failure in the area of negotiating. I got angry when I saw this Egyptian beating this Hebrew, and I killed him the next day. They were arguing. I tried to negotiate. It didn't work well. I ran. See, I don't think they will ever listen to me. What if they don't believe me or listen to me? Do you notice all his doubts? He had seen the bush, heard the voice, and still doubting God's choice. I've known many people in my life as a pastor for many years. Pastor, I just want God to tell me exactly what to do. And Moses had God tell him exactly what to do. And he says, I don't know. Let me think about it over. It's not quite the same. So God's response to Moses is intriguing. This is what I want you to do. I don't know, I'm not ready. Moses, what I want you to do. What's that in your hand? That's my shepherd's staff. I have had it for quite a while now, for years. What do you do with that? Well, you know, if there's some kind of wolf or something coming, it's protection. Or sometimes if the kids get out of line, you know, you kind of bonk them on the head. I keep it out of my wife's hands because I don't want anything to happen to me. But this is staff. What's in your hand? Whose is that? Well, God, this is mine. This is mine. Throw it down. It's mine. Throw it on the ground. Then it says it became what? A snake. You know what he did? He ran. He runs away from it. He's running around like most of you would do today. If I threw some snakes in the audience, there would be a lot of screaming and pandemonium, right? I know it'd be with my kids. I mean, they just not too a fan of snakes. It would not be a good day. And he throw the snake down. What am I supposed to do? Pick it up. What? Pick it up by the tail. God, you're not from around here, are you? We don't pick up hissing snakes from the tail in Egypt or in the Sinai, because these are venomous snakes. Becky and I were in Egypt. I remember going out to down the Nile River, and we went to one of the temple areas, and as we went up, there's a guy with a turban on his head, and he had the basket, the woven basket, and the lid was off, and there was a cobra coming out of that basket, just like this. And I was walking by from here to the front row, and he goes, and I went, and he went like, in other words, there's no poison. He's venomous. They've taken the glands out, whatever. So, and I responded, I'm not going. I'm not grabbing that snake or getting near that snake. And I can't imagine Moses picking up the snake by his tail. But here's what he said, God, we don't pick up snakes around here by the tail. Pick it up. Yes, sir. Back to a staff. All of a sudden, well, that's amazing. It's amazing that kind of story could happen. And what happens next? We want to point out the staff of Moses represents his security, his protection, his daily companion, part of his identity. If you were a shepherd and there were you were taking a break, you would grab someone else's staff to go work the sheep. It's only yours. Throw it down, then pick it up. And he said, what next? He said, well, put your hand in your cloak. Put his hand in. Pulls it back out. His hand is white as snow, as if it had leprosy. Put it back in again. He did. Brought it back out. It was fully restored. He said, well, that's interesting. And a third thing you can do is take some water from the Nile and pour it out, and as you do it, turn to blood. He said, this is so that they may be convinced that I've sent you. You know what I think? A little secret. The person who needed most convincing at that point was not Pharaoh. It was Moses. Moses was the one who needed the help. Moses was the one who needed the extra security. Okay, before I could ever sell this plan to Pharaoh, he had to sell it to himself. He had to believe it. And these three signs were just what Moses needed to assure him of leadership. They strengthened his call to go face the people, but he wasn't ready yet, which leads to number two. Our preconceptions often limit us from seeing clearly. I think we're our harshest critics. If you've ever been on video, you ever look at yourself, sometimes I go back and watch this on YouTube and I go, that's rough to see yourself. You look at, you look in the, if you don't believe that, just look in the mirror in the morning. You look in there and most people don't walk up and go, ooh. They go, oh yeah, well, let's do this. I need some of this. Whatever it is, seem like we're not really happy with ourselves. We're our harshest critics. And Moses was the same way. He said, I'm not good enough. I'm not good at that. I have some issues, God, and I really don't know if you know what you're doing. What he was saying, my confidence in me, God, is lacking. Verse 10, he says, I've never been eloquent, neither in the past, I love this part, nor since you've appeared to me at the bush. I had this God encounter and I wasn't changed. But what I think you need, God, is something else. How about an on-fire prophet? God, what I really think you should need is a very persuasive speaker. God saw qualities in Moses that Moses did not see in himself. And this is what I want you to hear today. God sees qualities in you that you may not ever see in yourself. God can use you in ways that you never dreamed possible because those qualities are there. We just have to find out what they are. And sometimes they take time. Sometimes that's what growth and formation's about, is realizing that I can be more than I am. Becky and I were married for 5 years before we became parents. I said this before, but in those 5 years, we were perfect parents. Before you have kids, it's easy to be a perfect parent. We evaluated and saw I'd never let my kid do that. And then you have kids and you just thought, oh, I understand now. It's about they missed their nap, or they're hungry. There's all kinds of excuses that we have. But Becky and I were in Kansas City when Laura was born. And when we went to the hospital, it was so excited. We went in the morning, you know, it's the perfect day, beautiful day in April in Kansas City. I'm taking her I talk to the doctor, no, you need to go to the hospital right now. I drive by, miss the exit. Because I'm so excited. Come back, and of course, you know the TV shows where it shows someone, oh, I have a labor pain, they have the baby. If you were to have the labor pain today with the first kid, we could drive from here to Atlanta and give birth to that baby. It's not like instant for the first child. Well, the third one was Stacy. That's like, you know, barely made it. But when we had children, when Laura was born, we went to the hospital. We'd never been parents before. We stayed at the hospital 3 nights. Can you imagine? They don't do that anymore, but back in Kansas City you did. And the third night, they had a candlelight dinner. Filet mignon, they called it your last night out. Because you know you have a kid, you're never gonna be able to go out again. And we were nervous to go home. I remember when we got in the car to go home, I go, I don't know, I'm kind of nervous about this because why don't we stay a little longer? Because the nurses know what they're doing. And you don't. I didn't say that, but that's what I thought. But we grow into parenting. We are barely ready for it. How do we get ready to have a baby? We have 9 months of pregnancy to get ready. And you're nervous. And can you imagine, you give birth and instead of an infant, you have a teenager. You're not ready for a teenager. It takes years, 10, 12, 13 years to get ready to be a teenage parent. So, and here's what I want to show you. It's not so much the kids growing, it's we grow at the same time because our needs base changes. Pregnancy to an infant, and then a lifetime to get to middle school. And none of us are ready for middle school, even when we get there. But we're better than we were as newborns. And you say, well, what about parenting? Do you think it's important? I do. We teach parenting here. Today is first week, of week 4, we're teaching parenting. It's at 9 o'clock. If you want to get into parenting class, see Susan. She'll help you with that. Do you know where most of us learn how to parent? From our parents. I know how my parents parented. Let me sum it up. They sucked. There was 9 kids. I was number 6. I had no parenting at all. I did whatever I wanted. I realized later they just simply said, hey, if we lose one, we've got 8 more, we'll make another one. It's no big deal. That's the parenting I experienced. I learned more sorry, Mom, if you're watching this. I learned more on how to parent by seeing my parents busy with so many other things. I don't want to go there, but I survived. Moses was not gifted with a silver tongue. He heard the commission and now was reminding God of his inability to speak with ease. God, I need to remind you. I love it when we remind God as if he doesn't know. It's like I used to keep a long prayer list of all the people. God, I want to tell you I'm praying for Bill and John and Bob and Susie. And God goes, hey, I already know. What I want to know is, do you care? What I want to know, are you tuned in with me and with your community? Are you conveying love? I don't need to remind God of a lot of things he knows already. I just need to be open and available. Moses struggled verbally. And I love it when he blamed God. And by the way, God, I'm no better since I talked to you. Face to face with God, he still stuttered. If Moses lived in the 21st century, he might not make it as a public speaker. But God chose Moses without being perfect. Doesn't that give us all a hope that he can use us? Public speaking is not my gift, God. God, you need someone else. You got the wrong man. And God responds, I created all humans. I created your mouth. I am the creator of sight and hearing. Now go, I'll help you teach, and I will teach you what to say. I love this. The creator of the universe agrees to help Moses with the task at hand. God sees the character, the potential, not just the polished talent. And look at Moses' final response. Often the greater risk is found in inactivity. So Moses says, it's too risky for me, God. And I love this part. I don't want to. I just don't feel like it. Does that sound like a teenager? I just don't want to. And the essence of God, of Moses, since I know more than you do, God, please send someone else. And here's God's response. I love they wrote it here. God his anger burns with Moses. He's ticked off. And he says, but despite his anger, you want to see the greatest evidence of grace? Despite his anger, he goes, Moses, trust me. But God, I don't speak well, Moses, let me tell you. Your brother is already on his way. What you're deficient in, I know, and I've already got a plan, and Aaron's already on his way. Give me a break. What do you want? Why are you so reluctant? Do you know I went to a lot of effort to create this bush on fire and to come down and put up with you? And did you notice I turned that staff into a snake? Pretty good, huh? And the hand thing? And the water to blood. I mean, what's the matter with you? Here's what I do also know. God could have terrified Moses into returning. But I think he wanted Moses to do it on his own. I grew up in a church that tried to scare everyone into doing what they wanted them to do. And I really am annoyed. I wish it hadn't happened. I sure hope there are better ways to motivate people besides scaring them into what you want them to be. But Moses was not scared into being a leader. He was an enlightened leader, and only as an enlightened leader would he lead them out of bondage to liberation, to freedom. God saw in Moses a leader with character and faithfulness. But notice the concessions. Aaron's going to be there to help you. Use the staff, take a leap, trust me, but go. Moses goes back to his father-in-law. His name was Jethro. He explains his needs to Egypt. Talk to him. Jethro says, hey, God told you, you go. So he takes his wife and sons and puts them on a donkey, starts back to Egypt. And it's interesting. And he took the staff of God in his hand. The staff of Moses was his until he threw it down. Then when he picked it up, it became God's. What we think belongs to us, if given to God, can become his and used by him. Some of you today are holding on to some security. You're holding on to your lack of confidence, your strengths, your agenda, your possessions. But if I open myself completely to God, I might be moved from my comfort zone, but it's the first step in changing the world. Today, I'm challenging you to take the risk, open your life completely. Let the Spirit of Christ live within you. Let him work in the process of formation. He'll build the character that's within you. When the staff of Moses became the staff of God, he went back to Pharaoh, showed him the snake thing. Pharaoh wasn't convinced. He said, let my people go. It was a staff of God that led the people, follow me. They left bondage to freedom. It was a staff of God when they got to the Red Sea and the army was behind them. Took the staff of God and they touched the water. The water parted and they walked through on dry ground. Later in the desert, when they were thirsty and they were grumbling because we don't have anything to drink, it was a staff of God that hit the rock and water gushed forth and gave them all the water they wanted. What was previously Moses' identity became God's possession. Great things began to happen to change his life. In 1998, I had my burning bush experience. I will tell you, I gave everything I had to God, and it became God's. I remember a point at an attorney's office downtown, we bought this acreage, and the guys came up and said, I just want you to know, we never thought you'd be able to do that. You're so young, and the church was young, and inexperienced, and all this stuff. We just never thought you'd pull this off, Larry. And I said, gentlemen, I want you to hear me very clearly. I'm not that smart. This is a God thing. And I truly believe we give God our thoughts and our minds and our abilities. He uses them to make a difference in the world. So let me ask you today, what's you hold tightly in your hand? Will you throw it down and let God use it and pick it up? Let me pray for you. Thank you, God, for all the grace you give us every day. Thank you for the joy that's ours in knowing you. It's our prayer that formation would begin in our hearts today. We would grow and become more like Christ, we pray in his name. Amen. I'm going to tell you a story. Stay seated, please. There's a Disney Nemo song that my granddaughter came in and sang to me last week. And in this song, I see a parallel to Moses, the lost son, your story and mine. So listen, I think you'll hear it. So Layton's gonna come out. She's 9 years old, Lauren Ricardo's daughter, and let her sing for us today.
Where's my dad? I'm all alone. I'm too small to be here on my own. I swam away 'cause I got mad, but now I really need him. Where's my dad?
You know, for Nemo, his dad was always searching for him and found him. For us, when I really need him, he's always there. There's my dad. I'm just here to remind you, he loves you today, and so do I. God bless. Thanks for coming.